In this video, we're going to talk about calculating AP quantities. So here's an example problem. You plan to serve a 5-ounce portion of chopped romaine lettuce as part of a Caesar salad to each guest at a 250-person banquet. How many heads of romaine do you need to purchase? So the first couple of steps of this we've done before. So we calculate the total EP ounces. And then we use our yield percent formula to calculate the total AP ounces. And then this is the new thing here, is that we're using this part of the book of yields over here that says an AP unit of a head of lettuce is 24 ounces. So that gives us this conversion factor here. So 24 ounces AP is one head, and so we multiply that out, end up dividing 1667 by 24, we get 69.5 heads. So of course what we'll really purchase is 70 heads of romaine lettuce. So when you're doing this conversion of EP quantities into AP using yield percent or some other parts of the book of yields that we're about to talk about, be really careful. It's very easy to get confused because there's a lot of things going on. So as we've talked about before, be sure to label EP and AP everywhere that you write something down. When you're reading the book of yields, make sure you're really thinking about the headings in the book of yields to think about, are they dealing with AP or EP, or are they going back and forth between those two? And we're going to talk more about that, but that's one of the places people get most confused is reading those column headings on the book of yields. So even if you use shortcuts on other percent problems, I'd really suggest that you use the yield percent formula when you're calculating AP quantities. I see a lot of people make mistakes there, so I hate to see you make a mistake with just a simple percent calculation. As you're doing your homework, check your answers, make sure you're doing this right. If you're having trouble with it, you want to find out early and get some help, but not find out after you've done a whole bunch of problems. So the different columns of the book of yields are related to each other. So if you look at this column of the book of yields for cantaloupe melon, it says 9.3 under the column heading trimmed clean ounce weight or count per AP unit. So that can be hard to read, but what that means is that you get 9.3 EP ounces for every AP unit, which in this case is 16 ounces or a pound. So that number will allow you to go directly from EP ounces to AP pounds. So to remember that that's how you calculate the yield percent. So the way that the book of yields folks calculate yield percent is they take a pound of cantaloupe melons and they trim them and they weigh them out, get 9.3 ounces, and then they plug that into the yield percent formula. So they get the 9.3 ounces EP over 16 ounces AP, and they calculate the yield percent, and that's where that 58.1% yield came from. So that's why this column here and the yield percent are related to each other, because the yield percent came from this column here. So because the different columns of the book of yields are related to each other, there's usually more than one way to move between EP and AP. So when you're reading the book of yields, slow down, read the column headings really carefully, and think about whether they involve EP or AP or both. And like I said, it can be confusing, so let yourself go slowly and think carefully at first. So let's look at this one. It says a recipe calls for 7 cups of diced carrots. How many pounds of carrots should you purchase? So of course the 7 cups is EP. How many pounds of carrots should you purchase is the AP, and we're looking for AP in pounds. So one way of doing this is going over to this column where it says trimmed clean ounce weight per cup. Now remember, that's relating one EP quantity, 5 trimmed ounces, to another EP quantity, 1 cup. So we're not going between EP and AP yet, we're just going one EP quantity to another. So if we use that number here, 5 ounces EP per 1 cup EP, we can make our 7 cups EP into 35 ounces EP. And then we can take the number here that says trimmed clean ounce weight per AP unit. It is 13 trimmed ounces to an AP quantity of 1 pound. And we can do it, use that to convert our 35 ounces of EP into pounds of AP. So 35 ounces EP becomes 2.69 pounds AP. So there's another way to do this problem. So we're back to the same problem. We're going to do it a second way. So method number 2, we're going to use a different column. So this one says number of trimmed clean cups per AP unit. So you can see that's one of the ones where it goes from EP, trimmed clean cups, to AP units, which in this case is a pound. So we take that number and we use it to convert our 7 cups EP into pounds AP. So we go directly from 7 cups EP over to 2.69 pounds AP. So those are just 2 of the methods. There's other methods you could have used to make that same conversion. Notice we didn't do one using yield percent with this one. We could have done that too. So there's, depending on which column of the book of yields you use, you can use different approaches to get from an EP quantity over an AP quantity. Just be careful as you do it. Make sure you're using the column the way it's actually labeled.